The phone buzzed against the granite counter, breaking the quiet rhythm of my morning. I set down my coffee, a small curl of steam rising into the sunlight pouring through the windows. For a second, my heart lifted when I saw her name. Brianna, my daughter. Finally, she was answering about Christmas dinner. I imagined her excitement, maybe even gratitude, after everything I had planned. But the words on the screen stopped me cold. We want to spend Christmas quietly with the in-laws. I read it once.
Twice.
A third time. The letters didn't change, but they might as well have been knives pressed against my chest. 30 years of giving, 30 years of sacrifice, erased with one line of text. The sunlight in the kitchen mocked me, bright and cheerful, while inside me something heavy and dark was settling in. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. My mind went back. All the moments. Every check I'd written. Every sacrifice made in silence. Her tuition at Emory. $60,000 a year, and that was just the start. 3 different majors. 3 different times she found her calling. Psychology. Communications. Business. Each time I paid, no hesitation. Then the wedding. Cody's family brought their blessings and a fruit tray. I brought $45,000 and the dress that made her shine brighter than any bride in the room. And when the down payment came up last year, $80,000 more. Daddy, this neighborhood is perfect for when we have kids. But the kids never came. The requests never stopped. Car repairs, credit card balances, vacations, renovations, decades of need, and I gave, always gave. And now, sit quietly with the in-laws. Translation: we want your money, but not you. The sting of rejection burned through me, but the burn didn't last. It hardened into something colder, sharper. Enough. For once, I would stop waiting to be wanted. I would create my own Christmas. A Christmas where people showed up because they cared, not because they needed. I scrolled to Robert's number. My brother. The one who always saw through Brianna's manipulation, though he never said it out loud for my sake. His gravelly voice came after 2 rings. David. Perfect timing. Just thinking about Christmas. Robert, I said, keeping my voice calm. Are you and Sarah free for Christmas dinner? At the villa. A beat of silence. Then laughter. Warm and unguarded. Hell yes. Sarah's dying to see the place. What brought this on? Weren't you going to Brianna's? I glanced at the phone screen. That text still glowing. Change of plans. She's with the in-laws. Robert's paws stretched, then his voice came back hard, sharp. That ungrateful little, David. How long are you going to let her treat you like an idiot? Not anymore. The words came slowly, but once spoken, they felt solid. Final. Call Mark and Janet for me. Invite them too. And the Hendersons if they're around. You got it, Robert said. This is going to be the best Christmas dinner you've ever hosted. With people who actually appreciate you. When I hung up, the silence in the villa felt different. Lighter. I walked through the wide halls, my footsteps echoing against marble floors. The formal dining room, long enough to seat 12, gleamed in the sunlight. The chef's kitchen, with its double ovens, waited like a stage for something grand. The entertainment room, anchored by the fireplace and its panoramic windows, promised warmth and laughter. This wasn't just a house. It was a statement. And it was time to make it. The next calls came easy. Tom Richardson, my old business partner, the one who helped me land the Samsung deal that changed everything. Then Patricia Webb, who stood at my side when my startup went public. People who had witnessed my climb, not just my wallet. David, never a bad time. Tom said when he picked up. Christmas dinner. My place. Close friends only, I told him. December 23rd, 6 sharp. Tom's voice lit up. Are you kidding me? Linda and I were hoping you'd ask. She still talks about those housewarming photos. We'll be there. Absolutely. Each yes, each word of genuine excitement, pulled me back toward something I had forgotten, what it felt like to be valued, not used. For the first time in years, I felt surrounded by people who valued me, not my wallet. Friends, real friends. People who wanted my company, not my money. I left the kitchen and walked into my office, pulling out a yellow legal pad. The ritual felt grounding. If I was going to do this, I would do it right. I scribbled down the menu in bold strokes. Prime rib from Morton's, roasted vegetables, twice-baked potatoes, Caesar salad. And if Patricia agreed, her tiramisu, because no one made it like her. I went down to the cellar, fingers brushing the racks of bottles, and pulled the 2018 Caymus Cabernet I had been saving. Tonight, it finally had a purpose. In the living room, I shifted the furniture, carving out space for conversation. The leather sectional angled toward the stone fireplace. Extra chairs pulled in from the formal living room. The open floor plan, with its cathedral ceilings and sweeping views of the gardens, felt suddenly alive. When I bought this villa, I imagined Brianna and her family filling these rooms. Instead, it would be people who actually cared. That thought, surprisingly, made me smile. By 4 o'clock, the catering order was placed. The house was staged. The guest list locked. 10 people who mattered. 10 people who respected me. The emptiness of the villa had transformed into something electric, a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Tomorrow night, the walls would echo with voices and laughter instead of silence. The doorbell chimed at 6 sharp. I glanced through the glass panes in the foyer and saw Robert's silhouette, solid and familiar. Sarah was beside him, carrying what looked like a covered dish. When I opened the door, Robert's grin stretched wide. Sarah gasped, her eyes darting up to the chandelier, the curved staircase, the sheer scale of the space. Jesus, David, Robert breathed, stepping inside. Photos don't do this justice. Sarah touched the carved woodwork, her voice rising with awe. The details alone, David, this is something out of a magazine. The car doors slammed outside. Tom and Linda Richardson climbed out of their BMW, followed by the Hendersons rolling up in their Mercedes. Within minutes, my foyer was alive. Coats passed around, voices echoing, genuine warmth spilling into every corner of the house. Linda spun slowly in the entryway, taking it all in. David, when you said you bought a place, I imagined something nice. This is magnificent. Her words landed differently than anything Brianna had ever said.
No calculaste. No ángel.
Just joy. I led them into the heart of the home, pointing out the details I had chosen with care. The imported marble fireplace, the custom shelving, the sound system wired into every corner. Their appreciation was real. Mark Henderson clapped me on the shoulder. You've really done it, David. All those years of smart investing finally paying off. Patricia swept in fashionably late, tiramisu in hand, phone already out. David, you have to let me post some photos. This house is unbelievable. And look at you, you're glowing. For once, I didn't hold back. Why not? I worked for this. I built this life. I deserve to share it with people who celebrated me. Cocktails by the fire gave way to dinner in the dining room. The prime rib melted in the mouth, the Caymus sang, and conversation flowed easy. Memories traded back and forth. Laughter spilling across the table. Tom lifted his glass. Remember when you told us to buy Bitcoin? We thought you'd lost your mind. Linda smirked. Some of us. I told him we should follow you. Tom laughed, shaking his head. Best mistake I ever made. Look where it got you. Their words weren't envy. They were respect. Genuine, heartfelt. I had almost forgotten what that felt like. Then Robert stood, glass raised. To my brother David, a man who never lost faith in himself, even when the rest of us couldn't see the vision. And to this home, where we're finally celebrating Christmas the way he deserves. Glasses clinked. Laughter rose again. And for the first time in years, warmth spread through me. Not from wine, but from belonging. Patricia's camera never rested. She captured it all. The candid smiles, the firelight on faces, the table spread like a feast from a dream. These are going straight to Facebook, she announced. People need to see this. I didn't object. Let them see. Let the world witness what success looks like when it's shared with the right people. But just as the night reached its height, I felt the vibration against my leg. Persistent.
Urgent.
I slid the phone from my pocket. The name froze me. Brianna. I excused myself, weaving through the laughter, down the hall into the quiet of my office. Closing the door, I pressed the phone to my ear. Hello, Brianna. Her voice cut like glass. What the hell is this? Patricia just posted photos. A party? At your house? With Robert? With everyone. I leaned back against the desk, letting her anger wash over me. It's Christmas dinner. You said you wanted to spend it quietly with the in-laws. I never said that. The denial snapped back fast, defensive, desperate. So fast it almost made me laugh. Would you like me to read your text back to you? My voice was flat, controlled, though my pulse was anything but calm. Silence stretched on the line before Brianna snapped. That's not what I meant. You knew what I meant. I read the words again, slow, deliberate. We want to spend Christmas quietly with the in-laws. That's what you wrote. What part of that was unclear? Her breath came fast, sharp against the speaker. You're being deliberately difficult. You knew I wasn't excluding you. Actually, I didn't, I said. I thought it meant exactly what it said. A quiet Christmas with Cody's family. So I made other plans. You went behind my back, she shot back. You invited everyone but us. I invited people who wanted to spend Christmas with me. You specifically said you didn't. That's when the real question burst out, what had been simmering underneath her tone all along. Where did this house come from? How can you even afford it? Where did all this money come from? There it was. Not pain about being excluded. Not disappointment about family. It was shock. Shock that I had built something she didn't know about. Money she couldn't touch. I've been successful, Brianna. More successful than you realize.
How?
You never told me about this house. About having this kind of money. A strange calm settled over me. Cold, steady, like steel. I don't owe you a financial report. I made good investments. I built a consulting business. I took risks, worked hard, and this house is the result of 30 years of sacrifice. But, Dad. No, the word came sharper than I expected. I won't be guilt for celebrating with people who value me. I won't apologize for success you didn't know about. And I won't pretend your text meant anything other than what it said. The silence on the line felt heavy, decades of resentment finally cracking open. You're being spiteful, she finally hissed. Because I can't come to dinner one time? I closed my eyes, pressing a hand to the desk.
No.
Because for 30 years I've been treated like nothing more than an ATM. Every conversation begins with what you need, never with what you can give. You've taken my support, my sacrifices, and show me no respect in return. That's not true. Then tell me, Brianna, when was the last time you called just to ask how I was? When was the last time you wanted something from me that wasn't money? Her silence answered for her. I have friends here tonight. I continued quietly. Friends who celebrate me for who I am. People who are genuinely happy for my success, not calculating what they can get from it. This is what Christmas looks like when people actually want to be here. You can't just exclude family. You excluded yourself. My tone was even now.
Calm.
You made your choice. I made mine. This isn't over, Dad. Her voice cut sharp, laced with threat. You can't just cut us out because you're having some kind of midlife crisis. Then the line went dead. I stood in my office, phone still in my hand, her words echoing in the silence. This isn't over. For the first time in 30 years, I had drawn a line. And it felt right, yet guilt pressed against me like a weight. The memories came fast, teaching her to ride a bike, late nights helping with homework, walking her down the aisle. That little girl, the one who used to reach for my hand, was now a stranger on the other end of the phone. Through the door I heard laughter, glasses clinking, voices rising with joy. The contrast pierced me, the cold of conflict against the warmth of belonging. I straightened my shirt, glanced at my reflection, and took a breath. Whatever storm Brianna brought, I would not let her ruin this night. I opened the door. The warmth hit me immediately. Robert caught my eye first. His grin softened, replaced by concern. David, everything okay? I nodded him toward the kitchen. He followed, leaving the others in their laughter. She called, I said. Robert's jaw tightened. What did she say? She saw Patricia's photos. Accused me of going behind her back. Wanted to know where the money came from. Denied ever saying she wanted a quiet Christmas. Of course she did. His tone was bitter, years of held-back truth spilling out. David, you've enabled this behavior for decades. She's not angry about dinner. She's angry because she's losing control. I hesitated, doubt creeping in. But what if I'm wrong? What if? Stop. Robert gripped my shoulder, his eyes locking onto mine. She hung up on you, didn't she? After making threats. I nodded. That's not someone trying to make peace. That's someone lashing out because their manipulation failed. Before I could respond, Tom Richardson stepped into the doorway, his expression cautious. Sorry to interrupt. We noticed you looked tense. Everything okay? Robert answered for me. Family drama. David's daughter is upset he's hosting Christmas instead of bowing to her demands. Tom's face darkened, recognition flickering in his eyes. Entitled offspring syndrome, Tom said dryly, swirling the wine in his glass. Linda and I went through the same with her brother. 45 years old, still expected us to bankroll his life. I raised an eyebrow. What did you do? Cut him off.
Cold.
Best decision we ever made. Tom's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was reciting a hard truth he'd long made peace with. He threw a fit, tantrum, threats, swore he'd never speak to us again. 6 months later, he had a job. Came back with an apology. Linda joined us, her face animated. Are we talking family boundaries? Because I have plenty of opinions on that. The conversation swelled as others drifted into the kitchen. Each story mirrored my own. Adult children draining parents dry. Siblings demanding support without ever giving back. Parents who weaponized guilt. The hardest part, Patricia said, setting down her glass, is realizing love doesn't mean enabling. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. Mark Henderson leaned in, his tone grave. My father used to say respect isn't inherited. It's earned. That rule doesn't vanish because you share blood. Their words cut deep. Not in pain, but in release. Something inside me loosened. These weren't strangers spouting cliches. These were friends who had seen me being drained, who recognized the pattern I had been too blind, too forgiving to see. Robert put it in plain words. You don't owe anyone your dignity, not even your daughter. By the time the evening rolled on, the heavy moment had dissolved back into celebration. Conversation turned light again, laughter rising, but the sense of support stayed like a net beneath me. A net I hadn't realized I'd needed this badly. Then, around 10, I was pouring wine when I heard it.
Car doors slamming.
Heavy footsteps crunching on gravel. Too deliberate. Too sharp. Not casual neighbors. Something darker. Sarah caught my distracted glance toward the windows. Probably just the Johnsons coming home late, she offered gently. I nodded, pretending to believe her, but the sound lingered in my gut like a warning. 20 minutes later, it came. The pounding. Not a polite knock. Not a ring of the bell. Violent, furious blows that made the oak door shudder against its hinges. The room froze. Glasses halted in midair. Laughter cut off in an instant. Every head turned toward the front entrance. Open this door right now. Brianna's voice sliced through the night like a blade. I know you're in there. My stomach sank. She'd actually come. She'd driven across town to create a scene in front of everyone. The pounding grew harder, shaking the frame.
Bang, bang, bang.
Brianna, lower your voice. I called through the door. Each step toward it heavy measured. We can discuss this civilly. Don't you tell me what to do. Her shriek cut through the walls, making several guests wince. This is insane. You can't just exclude family because you're having some midlife crisis. Cody's voice drifted weakly behind hers. Come on, David. Just open the door. We can talk. I turned to my guests, their faces caught between shock and pity. I could see the embarrassment, the anger, the disbelief at witnessing such a meltdown. "I'm sorry," I murmured to the room. Robert stepped forward, steady and firm. "Don't apologize. Her behavior isn't yours to own." But the pounding intensified. Neighbors would hear. The whole street would know. By morning, this humiliation would be gossip. I reached for the deadbolt. The lock clicked. The door flew inward, slamming against the wall with a thunderous crack. Brianna stormed in like a storm unleashed, eyes blazing, Cody trailing behind with the look of a man long defeated. "How dare you?" Her fingers shook as she pointed at me, then swept the room, accusing every guest. "How dare you throw a party and exclude your own daughter?" The living room fell silent, only the tick of the mantel clock filling the void. 10 pairs of eyes watched as my 32-year-old daughter raged like a child denied candy. "Brianna, you're making a scene," I said quietly. "I don't care." She spun, her eyes darting over the chandelier, the crystal glasses, the marble floors. The envy in her gaze was unmistakable. "Where did this come from? How long have you been hiding money from me?" Patricia stepped forward, calm but sharp, her phone still in her hand. "Excuse me, but this is a private dinner. You're being incredibly rude." Brianna's attention snapped to her, venom flashing. You're the one posting pictures. This is all your fault." Patricia didn't flinch. "I posted photos of a beautiful home and a wonderful evening with friends. That's all. Nothing inappropriate. It was inappropriate because I wasn't invited. You declined." My voice cut through the room, quiet but firm. "In writing." "That's not what I meant, and you know it." The absurdity settled heavy over the room. My guests, witnesses to this spectacle, saw it clearly now. A grown woman, raging because her father dared to celebrate with people who chose to be there. Tom Richardson's voice rose, calm but firm. "Ma'am, you need to stop. This is unacceptable." "Don't tell me what's acceptable." Brianna spun on him, her rage feral. "This is between me and my father." "Not anymore," Robert said, his voice carrying like a warning bell. "You dragged it into this room. You made it everyone's business the second you barged in screaming." That's when Cody finally spoke. "Maybe we should just go home." Cody's voice trembled, a plea more than a suggestion. "No!" Brianna snapped, silencing him with a glare that could cut steel. Her jaw set. "I'm not leaving until this is resolved." She yanked out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. I felt a knot tighten in my gut. "What are you doing?" I asked. Her eyes lifted, gleaming with a smile that froze the blood in me. "Calling the police. If you won't listen, maybe they'll force you to." The air cracked. My guests erupted in shocked murmurs, wine glasses clinking as hands tightened around them. These were respectable people, leaders, professionals, sitting in disbelief at the absurdity unfolding before them. "The police?" Linda Richardson's voice broke through, incredulous. "For what?" "For this." Brianna gestured wildly around the room. "For stealing Christmas from your own family. For hiding assets. For elder abuse." That last accusation landed like poison gas. I felt the weight of it infect the room, the venom behind her words twisting into something darker. She pressed the phone to her ear, dialing law enforcement against her own father because I dared celebrate Christmas without her permission. Minutes later, the sirens came, wailing through my quiet neighborhood. Red and blue lights bled across the villa's windows, painting my guests' stunned faces in streaks of warning. 2 officers approached, one older, graying at the temples, moving with calm authority. The other younger, tablet in hand, scanning the surroundings with practiced eyes. Their faces betrayed curiosity at the scene, a peaceful suburban home, not a war zone. "Good evening," the sergeant said when I opened the door. His voice was clipped, professional. "We received a complaint about excessive noise. Possible domestic disturbance. I'm Sergeant Martinez. This is Officer Norman." Before I could answer, Brianna lunged forward. "Thank you for coming. They've been harassing me. The noise. The yelling." Martinez's eyes swept the room. What he saw was a well-dressed group of adults sipping wine to soft jazz.
Calm.
Controlled. No chaos. No signs of trouble. "Ma'am, step outside," he instructed. Then turned to me. "Sir, this your residence?" "Yes," I answered evenly. "Quiet dinner."
Family. Friends.
"That's all." The younger officer tapped his tablet, taking notes. "How many guests?"
10.
"We've been having Christmas dinner." "The volume seems fine now," Norman observed, glancing at his watch. "Nearly 11, and I can barely hear voices from the street." Brianna's voice cut sharp, rising in frantic pitch. It was louder earlier. They were completely inappropriate for this neighborhood. "Ma'am, your relation to the homeowner?"
Martinez asked.
"He's my father, and he's been excluding me from family events. This is elder abuse." The words poisoned the air again. I heard my guests inhale sharply behind me. "Sir, do you feel abused? Threatened in any way?" Martinez's eyes locked on mine. "No, officer," I replied, calm but resolute. "I'm hosting a voluntary gathering in my own home." Robert stepped up, his voice steady. "Officers, I'm David's brother. My daughter got a text this morning. Brianna said she wanted Christmas with her in-laws instead. David invited those who actually wanted to be here." "You have this text?" Norman asked. Robert pulled out his phone. The sergeant read the message carefully. "So you declined the invitation in writing, ma'am?" "That's not what I meant." Brianna's voice cracked, frustration rising. He twisted it. "The message is very clear," Norman replied, his tone diplomatic but firm. Cody, finally summoning courage, spoke. "Maybe we should just go home. Talk this out privately." "No." Brianna whirled on him, furious. "They need to understand how wrong this is." Tom Richardson stepped forward, calm but sharp. "Officers, forgive this waste of your time. We've had a quiet evening. Most of us are retirees. Hardly a wild party." Martinez's face shifted. He was already drawing his conclusion. "Sir, any neighbors complain?" "Not to my knowledge," I said. "None logged tonight," Norman confirmed, checking his tablet. He turned back. "Ma'am, how exactly did you know about this gathering?" "I saw photos on Facebook." The two officers exchanged a glance. One that said everything. "So," Martinez said slowly, "you called in a noise complaint about an event you learned about through social media?" Brianna's cheeks flushed red. "It's the principal. This is harassment." "Sir," Martinez turned to me, voice clipped firm, "you have every right to host guests on your property, provided you're not breaking noise ordinances. From our observation, you're well within limits." "What about elder abuse?" Brianna demanded desperately, her voice fraying into panic. Martinez studied me again, eyes searching for signs of fear. "Sir, do you have any concerns about your safety or well-being? Are you being coerced?" I let the words settle before answering. "Only by the person who called you." The sergeant gave the smallest nod. He understood. "Ma'am," his tone sharpened, carrying the weight of authority, "filing false reports is serious. You need to move your vehicle. It's blocking the driveway. And allow these people to finish their evening in peace." Brianna stood frozen, her face a portrait of shock. Her plan had backfired spectacularly, the trap snapping shut on herself. "This isn't over," Brianna muttered. But her voice no longer carried the sharp edge of certainty. It trembled. Hollow. The officers walked back to their car, their silhouettes framed by fading flashes of red and blue. Moments later, silence swallowed the night again. The glow disappeared down the street, leaving only the weight of what had just happened. Brianna stood on my doorstep, smaller somehow. Not in size, but in presence. Deflated. Humiliated. The false confidence she had wielded so fiercely cracked apart under the pressure of reality. Cody shifted at her side, uncomfortable, staring at the ground as if wishing he could sink into it. "Brianna," I said quietly, my voice measured. "Do you want to come in and talk? Just you and me." Her head snapped up. For the first time that night, there was something human in her expression. A flicker of hope. Maybe she believed the police showing up had softened me, broken my resolve. I led her into my office. Robert guided the guests back toward the living room, giving us space. Cody stayed behind in the foyer, glued to his shoes, silent as stone. The moment I closed the office door, Brianna began. Dad, I need you to understand something. I sank into my chair, waiting. I never meant for it to go this far, she said, words spilling quickly. That text message, you took it the wrong way. I meant Cody, and I wanted a quiet Christmas morning with his parents. I thought it was obvious we'd see later for dinner. That's how it always is. We figured out. Dinner was never mentioned, I said calmly. You never asked about my plans. You just assumed. She began pacing, hands gesturing nervously in front of my bookshelf. I leaned forward. Brianna, when was the last time you called me just to ask how I was doing? Not because you needed something.
Just to talk.
She froze mid-step. That's not fair. It's a simple question. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, filled with decades of unspoken truths. You're twisting this, she finally snapped. Making it about something it's not. Then tell me what it's about. It's about this house. Her hand swept the office, her voice rising. This house I didn't even know existed. It's about money you never told me about. How long have you been hiding it from me? There it was. The real wound. Not Christmas. Not tradition. Not family. Control. Access. Fear of losing her safety net. I haven't been hiding anything, I said, steady. I've just been successful. More than you realized. Her face flushed. But why didn't you tell me? I'm your daughter. Do I owe you a financial report every month? Do my investments need your approval? That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? I need to know you'll still be there for me. That nothing's changed. Something inside me cracked. After all this, the argument, the humiliation, even calling the police, her focus was still the same.
Not me.
Not our bond. The money. What if things have changed, Brianna? Her eyes widened. What do you mean? What if I'm tired of being treated like a bank account? What if I want a relationship with my daughter that isn't based on what I can provide? You're being dramatic. I don't treat you like a bank account. I pulled out my phone, scrolling. Your last 10 messages to me. Dad, can you help with the car payment? Dad, we need help with the roof. Dad, Cody's between jobs again. When was the last time you asked how I was? Share good news? Just said hello. She stared at the screen, lips trembling, words failing her. I love you, I said softly. I always will. But I won't keep pretending this is normal. A relationship can't only flow one way. You can't just cut me off. I'm not cutting you off. I'm asking for respect. Mutual respect. Her face hardened, her eyes narrowing. This is Robert, isn't it? He's poisoned you. He's jealous of us. I stood, feeling the weight of truth settle into me like iron. This is me, realizing I deserve better than being used. Tears slid down her cheeks, but even they felt rehearsed, calculated. Please, Dad, don't do this. I need you.
No.
You need my money. That's different. I walked to the door, ready to rejoin the people in the other room, people who valued me for who I was. Behind me, her voice cracked into a whisper. This isn't over. But looking at my own reflection in the window, I realized it was. I stepped back into the living room. My decision was final now, sharp and cold as glass. Brianna's heels clicked frantically behind me. She wasn't finished. The moment we entered, she raised her voice for all to hear. I need everyone to understand something. My father has been hiding money from us. For years. Money that should have been shared with family. The room went still. My guests, caught between shock and discomfort, turned to me. Brianna.
No.
She spun toward Tom Richardson, her voice desperate. Did you know he bought this house without telling me? $2.8 million. Where do you think it came from? Tom arched a brow. From his investments and hard work, I'd assume. Same way I earned mine. You don't understand. She pushed harder. He's been manipulating records, hiding assets. That's enough, Robert cut in sharply. You're making accusations you can't prove. I can prove them. He's been stealing from family accounts. That's how he pays for this life. Patricia Webb's laugh broke the tension. A short, sharp laugh. Brianna, your father showed us his portfolio years ago when he considered retiring. Every cent came from legitimate investments he made before you were even born. She's right, Mark Henderson added firmly. David, Tom's voice cut through the silence. Didn't you get into Bitcoin back when it was under $100? I nodded. 2011, bought my first coins then. Linda leaned forward, her tone sharp but steady. And the tech startups, you invested in several, didn't you?
Yes.
Starting in 2015, 3 went public, 2 got acquired. The words hit the air like a gavel. Brianna's face flushed red, the realization spreading through the room. My wealth wasn't stolen. It wasn't hidden in shadows.
It was documented.
Witnessed. Built in plain sight by people who had known me for decades. But he never told me, she shouted, clinging to whatever defense she had left. Why would he? Sarah's voice sliced clean through the noise. You've never cared about his life unless you wanted something from him. The truth landed hard. Even Cody shifted beside her, his posture crumbling under the weight of reality. For the first time, he saw what everyone else already knew. That's not true. Brianna's voice cracked. I've always cared about my father. When? Robert asked, stepping forward. When was the last time you called him just to ask about his health? His happiness? His plans for the future? Silence. Patricia's voice followed, cold and steady. When was the last time you invited him to your house for dinner? More silence. Tom's question cut deepest of all. When was the last time you celebrated one of his achievements without calculating what you could get from it? The room fell into a heavy stillness. Brianna's eyes darted wildly from face to face, searching for an ally. Even Cody wouldn't look at her. Her isolation was complete. You don't understand our relationship, she whispered, desperate now. No, I said quietly. We understand it perfectly. And that's the problem. 30 years of weight pressed on me. 30 years of enabling, of bending, of pretending. And then I let it go. I want you both to leave my home. And never come back. The words froze the room. Brianna stared at me, wide-eyed, as if I'd just spoken in a language she couldn't comprehend. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious. Her eyes filled with real shock this time. Dad, I'm your daughter. You're a woman who has used me for 3 decades without offering anything in return. Being my daughter doesn't entitle you to my resources, or my tolerance for disrespect. I started walking toward the foyer. Expected them to follow. They didn't. I turned back. I said leave. This is insane. Brianna's voice broke into hysteria. You're destroying our family over nothing. Nothing. Robert's voice thundered with disbelief. You called the police on your own father for hosting a dinner. You accused him of elder abuse, Patricia added, her disgust cutting sharp. You barged into his home, uninvited, and humiliated him in front of his friends, Tom finished, his voice filled with contempt. Each accusation fell like a hammer. Brianna looked frantically for a lifeline. Cody,
Tell them.
tell them they're wrong. He looked at her for a long, painful moment. Then at me. Brianna, we should go. Her voice shattered. You too? You're taking his side too. I'm not taking sides, he said softly. I'm facing reality.
He's right.
You know he's right. I moved to the front door, pulled it open. Cold December air rushed inside, sharp against my skin. I've spent 30 years enabling behavior that's hurt us both, I said.
My voice was calm.
Solid. I won't spend what time I have left being treated like a bank account with a pulse. Her tone shifted. Pleading now. I'll change. I promise. I'll call more. I'll show you I care. You had 30 years to change, Brianna. Tonight proved you can't. But I'm your daughter. And I'm a human being. One who deserves respect. Something you've never been able to give. She looked around the room one last time. All she found were cold stares, shakes of heads. Her face hardened. You'll regret this. All of you will regret taking his side. Sarah rose from her seat, steady, unwavering. We already know what kind of man he is. That's why we're here. Robert moved beside me at the open door. His presence a shield. His voice final. Brianna.
Leave. Now.
She stormed toward the threshold, Cody trailing behind her, his shoulders heavy with shame. At the door, she turned back, her voice shaking with rage.
This isn't over, Dad.
I won't let you cut me out of your life. Yes, I said quietly. It is over. And you cut yourself out the moment you chose manipulation over love. I closed the door, turned the deadbolt. The sound of the lock echoed like a final chapter closing. Their car started outside, then faded into the night. With it, 30 years of exhaustion, guilt, and quiet despair finally left my home. For the first time in decades, the air in my house felt clean. Behind me, my friends, my true family, resumed their celebration, voices soft, warm, alive. I stood there in the foyer, my hand still resting on the lock. The weight I had carried for 30 years was gone. It felt like fog lifting from a valley at sunrise. When I turned back toward the living room, I saw faces looking at me with pride, with admiration. David, Patricia said softly, that took real courage. Tom stood. He began to clap. Slowly at first. Then one by one, the others joined. Applause filled the room. Not for wealth, not for accomplishments, but for a man who finally chose himself. You handled that with more grace than she deserved, Linda added gently. Robert stepped forward and wrapped me in his arms. His voice was thick, trembling. I've been waiting 30 years for you to do that, Robert said, his voice low, steady. His eyes locked on mine. I'm proud of you. The words struck me like a wave crashing against stone. Validation. Recognition. From the people who mattered most. These weren't just friends. They were my true family. They had witnessed the entire storm, the accusations, the humiliation, the confrontation, and they had seen me stand tall through it. They knew Brianna's true nature. They knew the cost I'd paid for decades. And tonight, they celebrated not money, not status, but justice. Sarah lifted her glass. Her eyes shone with something deeper than wine. To David Collins, she said, voice ringing with strength. A man who chose dignity over guilt, peace over chaos. To authentic relationships, Mark added, raising his glass with conviction. To knowing your worth, Patricia chimed in, her voice soft but sure. We drank together. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades, the joy of being valued simply for who I was. Not for what I could give. Not for what could be taken. But for me. Robert pulled me aside while laughter rose again in the background. How do you feel? I didn't hesitate.
Free.
For the first time in my adult life, I feel free. He nodded slowly, his expression solemn. You didn't lose a daughter tonight, David. You gained your life back. He was right. The woman who had stormed out wasn't the little girl I once taught to ride a bike. That girl had vanished long ago, replaced by someone who saw me as nothing more than a wallet with a heartbeat. She had made her choice decades ago. Tonight, finally, I made mine. Linda approached, her face filled with quiet regret. David, I want to apologize. For what? I asked. For all the times I saw how she treated you and stayed silent.
We all saw it.
We all knew you deserved better. Tom stepped forward, nodding. We should have spoken up sooner. But tonight, watching you stand your ground, that was powerful. It was beautiful. The conversation shifted, naturally, to the future. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel heavy. It felt open. What will Christmas look like next year? Someone wondered aloud. What about New Year's? Or your birthday? You should host New Year's here, Sarah suggested, smiling. A celebration of new beginnings. The idea lit something inside me. I'd love that, I said, surprised by how much I meant it. All of you here, bringing in 2025 together. And your birthday in March, Patricia added warmly. A real celebration. For a man who deserves to be celebrated. For the first time in decades, I felt excited about the year ahead.
No excels. No unspoken tension. No hidden demands.
Just laughter, respect, and love. I can't believe I actually did it, I whispered, almost to myself. Believe it, Robert said firmly. You chose yourself tonight. You chose peace. By 2:30, people began reaching for coats and scarves. The night had been long, emotional, exhausting, but also healing. Dawn wasn't far off. I hugged each of them before they left. The hugs lingered, heavier with meaning. These weren't polite goodbyes. These were bonds forged in truth, strengthened by justice. When the last car disappeared down the driveway, I stepped back into the villa. My sanctuary. The house felt different now. Lighter, larger. As if every corner had been cleansed of poison. As if removing one toxic presence had expanded the very walls. I wandered slowly through each room, no longer carrying guilt. No longer burdened by manipulation or invisible strings. The silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. In the kitchen, the same place this day had begun 18 hours earlier. I brewed a cup of coffee, stood by the window overlooking my garden. The landscape lights shimmered against the dark sky like scattered stars. But for the first time, they illuminated possibility, not just property. My phone buzzed. Patricia. Thank you for showing us what courage really looks like. Sweet dreams, my friend. Then Tom, your home will always be a place of love and respect. Sleep well. And Sarah, call us anytime. We're your real family now. Each message felt like a warm embrace, reassurance that I'd done the right thing. For the first time in years, I thought about my resources. My investments, the villa, the financial freedom I had built over decades, and it felt truly mine. Not something to be siphoned. Not something I had to defend.
Mine. To enjoy. To share.
On my terms. I thought about travel. A river cruise through Europe. Vineyards in Tuscany. A cooking class in Paris. Or maybe just creating a home filled with laughter instead of criticism. Appreciation instead of demands. Love instead of obligation. The first hints of dawn painted the eastern windows. Christmas Eve was beginning. And for the first time in 30 years, I was genuinely excited. No walking on eggshells. No anxious gift-giving to appease. No calculating how much money would be enough. Just the pure joy of celebrating with people who wanted me. My phone rang. Robert again. How are you holding up? Better than I have in decades, I said honestly. I keep waiting for guilt to hit, but it's not coming. It won't, he assured me. Guilt requires wrongdoing. And you did nothing wrong tonight. You protected your dignity. I think I'll spend Christmas Day alone, I said. Not lonely. Alone. There's a difference. There is, he agreed. And you've earned the right to peaceful solitude. After we hung up, I stepped onto the terrace. The December air was crisp, alive. The horizon glowed with sunrise. At 63 years old, I was finally beginning my authentic life. The years ahead stretched out like an open road, filled with possibility, with respect, with joy. Maybe Ireland for St. Patrick's. Maybe Australia for autumn. Maybe nowhere at all but here, in this home that was finally mine. As the sun bathed my villa in gold, I realized this wasn't just Christmas morning. This was my rebirth. I had chosen dignity over duty, peace over chaos, self-respect over obligation. And for the first time, I felt like I'd come home to myself. The best gift I had ever given was the one I gave tonight. The courage to demand the respect I had spent 63 years earning. Christmas had finally come home.